Alright guys, this time I just kind of wanted to do another video that I feel is almost like a spin-off of one of the last videos I did. Actually, one of the first videos I did here on anime, talking about perversion and ecchi humor and stuff like that in anime. As you could probably tell by the title, I'm talking about a little show called Freezing. Now, just to give you an idea of like my introduction to this, I was asking for recommendations because I was like starting to really start watching anime a lot more again. This is one of the shows that my little sister recommended, and then after I watched the first, season, I went back and talked to her about it, and I was like, yeah, I was surprised you kind of recommended this to me with it's like so much nudity and stuff like that. But this is like years ago. And she was just like, yeah, I don't know why I recommended that show to you either. But all that could stick in my mind is just how much like nudity and junk was in it, because there's so many boobs in this show. But going back, I actually watched the thing again, and watched the second season, Vibration, as well, and I was actually just kind of blown away by the storyline and the themes and stuff like that. So that's what I wanted to kind of discuss today, because like I was saying with like World Break, how all the nudity and stuff like that kind of got in the way. For this show, to me, like all the nudity is just it is kind of superfluous and unnecessary, to be completely honest. Just how much there is, it's so gratuitous, but it never becomes, in my mind, like the true focus. I mean, obviously my first watch of the impressions of the series, when I watched it the first time, all I could think about was just how much nudity there is in this show. But when I went back and actually just kind of tried to pay attention to like the story and the tale it was kind of telling, I was like, this is actually like a really good show. and I think it like actually like hits on some different points. I feel like the focuses like kind of shift once you go over to the vibration side of things, but I feel like each of them kind of have like a message that it kind of tries to get across. In the show, the main girl in the show is Satellizer L. Bridget, who is known as the untouchable queen because she doesn't allow anybody to like touch her, and she's like one of the toughest fighters in this world of what they call Pandoras, which are group of females who are kind of like drafted to fight against these alien invaders they call the Nova, and they are actually picked by their compatibility with like basically the little bits of Nova technology that the humans were able to gather to fight against Nova kind. But anyway, Satellizer, she happens to be a like really tough one in this school setting where they kind of train them to be ready to go and fight basically this war for survival against the aliens. And she's a second year, and the second years that you're kind of told that they try and find first year males there at the school to help them fight, because what they do is they'll partner up and that will increase their abilities to fight against the Nova. And this one boy who happens to have his first year happens to be automatically kind of gets drawn to this Satellizer L. Bridget lady when he first sees her when he goes into school, and kind of breaks Satellizer's feelings about being touched and opening up. And then it's pretty interesting to see how she came to be that way, and it really dealt with like learning how to like trust people and open up. You because as the like I don't want to do like a full-on like review. I kind of want to just focus on the theme, so hopefully you guys seen it, because I don't want to go over everything about the show. I just kind of want to talk about its themes that I got out of it and kind of what message is trying to get across. But anyway, you learn that the reason why Sadala is the way she is, you find out way down the road that she was abused, because she's actually a half sibling to the all-powerful El Bridget family, who are pretty much like nobility, and she was abused by her little brother, who sexually assaulted her on like a regular basis, and she dealt with that pretty much growing up until she was finally able to get away by becoming a Pandora and going to this school where they kind of learn how to fight for the world. But that is what made her the untouchable queen, as they called her, since everybody's like touch that she had brought back those bad memories, and it was traumatizing to her. But for some reason, the first year boy, who was just automatically drawn to her due to the fact that she has the same parts, she ended up inheriting the same parts that his sister ended up having, because his sister who died had stigmatas, and those like little pieces, his sister had a lot of them, and so like the most that they've ever really put in a person, and so they actually donated some of them to Sadalizer, which is why at first when he saw her, he thought of his big sister, who he loved dearly, even though eventually she had to go off to go fight and eventually die. But anyway, being that Kazuya is a kind-hearted soul and really was just looking for the best interest for anybody, really. But in Sadala's case, really tried to get her to let her guard down, and he wanted to partner up with her because he just automatically felt this connection that they were going to work together. But the thing is, the way the whole partnership between Pandora and Limiter, or is what the guys are called, the way it works is where the first theme kind of comes in to play, where I think kind of was like the main focus of the first season of Freezing. The way the partnerships are supposed to work, they're supposed to be solidified and actually be able to work by what they call baptism, which by context clues you can basically allude to sex, and that's how you kind of become partners or whatever like that, and actually be able to unlock the abilities that for some reason Sadala and Kazuya are able to use without the baptism. The way I kind of interpreted like that whole theme, because everybody tries to harp on them not being real partners, not being like actually a group, you know, because they never really did the baptism. To me, it almost seemed the theme that you don't have to have sex in a relationship. You could be partners without having to go that far, and you can even have like even a better relationship with your partner than people who just have a sexual relationship. Because there's like one chick who all she does, they basically call her kind of like a man-eater, and all she does is like gets a whole bunch of guys to be her limiters, and it's kind of like the hey, I just have relations with anybody kind of chick. And then also some of them like see the partnership as a trusting, loving bond, and so that you kind of see that sex in a relationship could be a truly bonding partnership and an expression of you two working together. And then others kind of just see it as, oh, this is just something that I do for the satisfaction of what power, the feeling it gives me, the strength it gives me. And that's kind of a relationship you see in some other partnerships. You can have all these different like relationships, they all end up kind of being displayed, and I really think it thematically kind of leans towards that message of just kind of exploring the importance of sex in a relationship. Like the first season kind of was talking about how you can still have a truly loving and great relationship even without sex. Like sex is not the end all be all of a relationship, but it's interesting how much pressure she ends up getting and ridicule that she'll end up getting for not actually having that relationship. But due to her history, it also makes sense that there can be issues with the misuse of sex as well. It's pretty interesting way what I tried to peel back from it. This is all just kind of an opinion piece in general, and I know it's kind of splattered all over the place, but I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out. Next point. Also with Rana Lynchen, another Pandora that ends up transferring into the school, the way that relationship kind of works, because she automatically feels like Kazuya is the one that she's fated to be with. Seeing that was interesting too, and how I think that kind of fits into the theme is that I think that kind of has to do with maybe like a cheating thing. Maybe. I don't know. But Kazuya never really ends up doing anything with Rana Lynchen, despite all of her efforts to be the one that he'll end up choosing. But she ends up respecting his choice to be with Sadala, even though they still never really have a baptism or have relations. Moving on into Vibration, you get even more in depth into kind of the abuse that Sadala ended up having from her younger brother. So you kind of go a little bit deeper into that and explaining like the motivations there. Like the story is really good, guys. I'm just saying, pay attention to the story despite all the gratuitous fan service and nudity and stuff. Anyway, Vibration. It's another one of those stories that kind of delve into at what lengths are you going to go to save humankind. And there's even like some comparisons to the Nova being kind of like angels or God's punishment for humankind, the way they continually wipe them out. And since the humans try to advance so much and even misuse the little bit of power of I guess God that they do end up getting. But also back to the whole stakes thing, at what lengths will you go to try and save mankind? Because it has, the second season kind of delves into the experimentation of the humans, because since in this world only certain females end up showing compatibility for the little Nova stigmata thingies to be put into them without it causing too much damage, they started experimenting to try and make a way to use drugs and such to have more females be able to become Pandora to fight for mankind, pretty much. And that way, that since there'll be more people to join in the fight, they'll be more able to defeat people. But the thing is, you end up finding the drugs and stuff that they have to give them to allow those who aren't as compatible with stigmas, it turns them into basically the Nova, the enemy that they're trying to fight, because it's too much for them to handle. It just, the drugs kind of suppress it a little bit as they draw on the stigma's power. So it's just like, do you sacrifice these girls just so you can have some more manpower And then once they're gone, move on to the next girl, you know, to continually have a fresh supply of soldiers? Or do you just go ahead and leave it all at the hands of the people who are more compatible and able to handle that power? Back to the kind of the whole God comparison, God's punishment thing. Another experiment happening there is them trying to clone basically the girl who they've captured to make the stigmata and give the girls powers. They try to make clones of the source of power that they have, and that was also shown to be like, hey, you're dealing with powers that you really shouldn't mess with, and that's probably gonna cause trouble, which eventually it does, because those clones end up taking pretty much a life of their own and going against all of Pandora and stuff like that, and that caused a lot of trouble. But it really did really well talking about those things, and also just kind of thinking about how corrupt kind of military can end up being, and what they do in the shadows, what the government can do under the shadows while trying to protect mankind. Because at times you can kind of rationalize that, hey, for the sake of order, maybe we should keep this under wraps, and then also, but wait, this is getting out of hand, this needs to be said so it can be stopped, so people aren't being sacrificed and thrown to the wolves and killed for the sake of war, just so we can try, and when there's still a means to fight, you know, just where the boundary lines are to, you know, what's fair in love and war, kind of. it's kind of like that. Freezing is like, the first season is like what's fair in love, and then the freezing vibration is like what's fair in war. You know, but I just kind of wanted to talk about it a little bit, because I mean, ecchi humor is definitely something that can exist in shows, and fan service can exist in anime, and yet still deliver thought-provoking stories and characters that you can actually get attached to, and actually have relationships that feel real and make sense. Because I feel like Freezing is definitely a show that could have done without all the fan service and all that kind of stuff. But since it's there, it's like, hey, I mean, it's there, I'll enjoy it. But they never let it get so out of hand that it takes away from the story, at least in my opinion. Because the thing is, the fighting Nova only happens maybe like 3 to 5 times in the show. But yeah, because there's so much more infighting between all the Pandoras and junk like that, because of like Sattala's rebellious nature, and then also the split between, you know, what's right and wrong when they're dealing with the experimental Pandoras and the regular ones. But anyway, the point I was getting to was, there's so much nudity, because the way they fight, every time they, like, almost after every hit, clothes are being ripped off by them being attacking each other with their weapons and stuff like that. So it's like, oh yeah, well, slice, clothes, boobs, is everywhere, like all the time. And the thing is, the way their stigmata works allows them to create their clothes again. So it just like, okay, like my clothes just got all ripped, I'm getting ready to fight up again, so let me rebuild my clothes just so they could get ripped open again. It's like, so it's just like, it gets a little crazy and a little redundant the way they always end up having it happen that way. But like, despite that being in there, just to me, it still doesn't take away from just how good of a story it is. Like, it definitely could have done without all the nudity, but even though it's there, the story is really good, and that's kind of what my point is. So sorry, World Break, you're still a disappointment in my eyes. But this is a show of like an anime that can give you all of the nudity and ecchi humor you can get, while still telling an actually thought-provoking storyline and interesting characters that you actually get to feel attached to. I'm done rambling on about this show now. I think I pretty much got the points out that I wanted to. Yeah, let me know. Is there any shows that you've seen that have a lot of ecchi humor that still manages to tell a great story? Cause there's a couple that I've seen. Like, another one that always comes to my mind that baffles me how it balances just straight up perverted humor to an actually standing for a certain positive message is Heaven's Lost Property. Heaven Lost Property is another one of those shows that I was just completely blown away by how it can go from 0 to 100. Like, 0 being like it being serious, and then 100 being completely ridiculous and boobs, sex jokes, perversion everywhere. Like, that's another show that just like flip-flops between it all. I feel like Freezing does that a little bit more naturally, but I still never was broken up by the way it keeps switching back and forth in Heaven's Lost Property. But yeah, tell me, is there another ecchi series that you could think of that actually tells a story? Let me know in the comments. You know, that'd be cool. And yeah, so Blipmaster 5 here. I'm out. Thanks.